I began by asking her, how has her life been affected since the tragedy a year ago?
When you think of the September 11th disaster, you really almost can't find the words to describe it. But the way I look at it is that out of the negativity, we have to look at the positivity. In other words, we have to look at how speedily the people of America regrouped and how the community really worked together and how they found the ability to really, through their sadness, to really love each other even more and to find the compassion. And I love that side of it.
You've really become a hero and a sign of strength in America, haven't you?
Oh, I don't know about that, Alex. No, I'm just me. I just go on my windy path and I try and do the best job I can. I think that people deserve respect. I think that everybody deserves a moment to be listened to. And I think that in this day and age there's not enough kindness. I think that smile, which means so much and it just takes a second to give, can make a difference. And that's what I've always thought, and I really believe that.
Out of the tragedy of September the 11th did come many heroes and miracles, and one of the miracles was that your doll, Little Red, which is the symbol for your charity, was found at Ground Zero, wasn't it?
Well, Alex, what happened is because our office was on the 101st floor, Little Red, she always sat in the window looking over New York and over the United States, as I imagine she did, because she's a little red rag doll. She stands at about 12 inches, I suppose, and she sells at FAO Schwartz, and all the money goes to Chances for Children and now to Children in Crisis to help educate the children of Afghanistan in Kabul. And on the day of the terrible disaster, yes, she was found in the rubble by a fireman who put her in his helmet and carried her out. And when it came on television, I looked and saw this little Red, and the presenter said, "Oh, look, there's a child's doll." And I immediately called up the presenter and said, "Please, don't worry," because I was very worried they were going to think there was a child lost or buried in the rubble. So I said, "No, it's not a child's doll. It's Little Red, and she's a symbol for Chances for Children." And it was quite incredible now because I take her everywhere with me, and I show her and I say, "Look, we can all rise up from the rubble. We can all go forward. We must dream. We must allow our children to dream, and we must give our children a chance to a healthy and happy lifestyle by continuing our fight to get children off the streets or children, who are suffering from AIDS or drug addictions. We must give our children havens and places that they can grow up and dream."
Sarah, you spend most of your time touring America now. Do you find that New Yorkers and Americans generally are beginning to begin the healing process and get over the tragedy of September the 11th?
Out of adversity comes happiness. That was my coat of arms. My great-great-great-great-grandfather, whoever designed it, was quite extraordinary, really. And the Americans are beginning to realize that they must come out of their homes and they must go forward and they must begin to travel again, because they all stopped traveling, and a lot of Americans started to eat more. And they started to try and say, well, might as well eat this because it might be our last meal, And so, of course, they're beginning to understand that it is okay to come out and say, we can do this. Through the love and the neighborhood love and the community love, we can go forward and try and smile in the face of terrorism.
It was a very scary time for us all because we didn't know what was going to happen next. But what was it like for you being a public figure in New York? How did you feel?
I felt completely determined to go straight back out into the United States. I didn't really want to leave. I wanted to remain steadfast for them. I wanted to show that the British solidarity and friendship is absolutely bar none. I know that we all saw the relationship between Bush and Blair was extraordinary, and I think that the British have remained completely and utterly 100% supportive of the United States and vice versa. And I was very, very proud to be sort of almost, there as an American, British, but in America. And I wanted everybody to know I was very grateful, and certainly my children are very grateful, because the American people really have, by embracing me, have given my children their mummy back.
They almost seem to have adopted you as one of their own, which is very rare, isn't it?
Well, they've sort of, I don't know if I can say that, but I really love to be with them because they sort of take Fergie as she is. Just as she is. There's no other Fergie, and that's what they say. They say she's just the way she is, and by doing that, it's given me confidence to be able to just say what I need to say, and by doing that, I feel free, and I come back here and I'm able to be a better mum.
I talked to you a little bit about what you're doing now in America, but at the time you lost, I believe, 3 workers from your charity Chances for Children, and it must have been a very trying and difficult time. And as you say, out of that has come a lot of good. And you started the 911 fund, didn't you, that raised an awful lot of money?
Yes, I started the 911 fund for 6 weeks, actually, and it was the only way I could think of thanking Howard Lutnick of Cantor Fitzgerald for all he's done for us. Because he's supported us from Cantor Fitzgerald in London, and he's supported Children in Crisis in Milan by giving us an office there too. And so we raised, up to $150,000, which for 6 weeks fund was, I thought, was quite good, since it was just me, really,
Absolutely.
and a small team of people.
You should be very proud.
Well, what we did was, I tell you what I did with that. I really felt it was important that it wasn't the immediate victims, because they were really well supported by the American people, but it was the ripple effect. And in Brooklyn, there was some single parents that had lost their jobs because of the disaster. Airlines cut back, and other organizations cut back, air traffic control, and things really had a real problem over there. And so these people had lost their jobs. They'd been in their jobs for 5 to 8 years, and they hadn't ever been trained in anything else. So what work could they find? And they had children at school, and they had no way to feed them. So what we did was we went to a day center, and we've looked after 25 families now.
What is life like for you now, Sarah? You're travelling, as I say, around the world. You've just got back from, I think, a 3-month tour of America. You're now off today for a 4-month tour. What is it like for you touring America now?
Well, Alex, it is for me just such an extraordinary feeling to be able to talk about things which I know about, or that have happened to me in my own life, like financial problems, or divorce, or deaths, or all the things that I might have fought through, or being overweight. That was a major problem. And since obesity is a major epidemic in the United States, and 1 in 4 child is diagnosed as either overweight or obese, it is really a major, major problem. And the U.S. Surgeon General has just called the nation to lose weight. I mean, and so I go around America now talking about weight and the effects it had on my life. And I think that's for me, it really it's just honest. It's just truth.
What do you think you've got then subconsciously, Sarah, that you give over to people to inspire them to get over adversity, no matter what it is, whether it's weight or something like a tragedy like September the 11th?
Well, Alex, I always try and find the positive side of looking at negativity, and I call it the gift of negativity. For example, before September 11th, I had tried for 6 years to try and get the American people to listen to the fact that there are women walking around with burqas on, that they were whipped every time they wore pink lipstick, or their heels made too much noise on the pavement. Girls and women weren't allowed to be educated. I went everywhere to try and talk about the effects of these women and girls in Afghanistan, and people really didn't listen because it didn't affect them. After September 11th, suddenly everybody realizes that these women have been in real pain and real abuse for many, many years now. And there is I see that as a gift in a way, out of terrible sadness and tragedy. But there are people in the world that have now being listened to and have a voice, and I call it the unity. I think that people should unite and say, okay, well, that's terrible sadness, but we can all gather around and see what we can do with it, and it makes people look into themselves more and say, right, well, maybe we can change our own lives now. And so maybe I just talk about that, Alex. I just seem to be very straightforward, and I guess I've always kept this positive attitude that, you know what, no matter how bad it gets, you just got to get up, dust yourself off, and get on with it, and just try not to let the black cloak take you over.
And can I say, and I mean this with the highest level of respect, you have that common touch to get to normal people, and that's the biggest asset that I think you have.
No, I think that's a lovely compliment, and thank you for saying that, because we are, after all, at the end of the day, no matter where we are or who we are, we're all the same. We get up, we get out of bed, and we're going to try and do the best job we can. And my dad always said, no matter who you are or where you are, never forget that the washing up still has to be done.
Absolutely. The Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, thank you very much for talking to us today. And can I just give your website out for Chances for Children? It's www.chancesforchildren.org. You can then get connections to all the charities and the various areas of the charity, chancesforchildren.org. And thank you once again for coming on the show today, Sarah Ferguson.
Thank you very much, Alex.